What is cracking, Hope Nation? It is your friendly neighborhood Kevin Hines. Welcome back to another episode of the Hinesights Podcast. Today, I am honored to introduce a remarkable guest who embodies resilience and the power of overcoming life's toughest challenges. Scott Medlin is a Marine Corps veteran, a former law enforcement officer, and now a national speaker whose mission is to inspire and empower others to thrive in the face of adversity. Drawing from his personal experiences battling PTSD and addiction, Scott connects with audiences in a deeply relatable way, especially first responders and those in the front lines. He is the host of the 10 Code Mindset podcast and the author of 5 impactful books, including Mental Health Fight of the Heroes in Blue and the 101 Health Tips for Police Officers. Through his work, Scott equips people with actionable tools to build resilience, overcome obstacles, and embrace a thriving mindset. Scott's story is powerful, palpable, and his passion is infectious. And his message is one that everybody needs to hear. Let's dive into this conversation with someone who's truly making a difference. Welcome to the Hinesights Podcast. Scott Medlin, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thrilled to be here, Kevin. Thank you.
Well, we're grateful that you're here, my friend. Before we begin, I want you all to remember this podcast is brought to you by kevinhinesstory.com/shop. That's kevinhinesstory.com/shop. Grab your Be Here Tomorrow and Hope Helps Heal apparel or one of my 4 books today and spark a conversation of hope and healing from brain pain while wearing the apparel or after you read one of my books. Either way will surely change your beautiful and hope-filled day. Let's get right into it. Scott, can you share, first of all, your personal journey, including your experiences in the Marine Corps and law enforcement, and how these roles influence your perspective on mental health?
Well, it was one of those where I kind of had to learn the hard way on a lot of it because there wasn't a lot of education about it, nor training about it, nor any resources out there that I knew of while going through the Marines and law enforcement. But I'll back up just a little bit. So I graduated high school in 2001. And I'm talking not even 2 weeks later, I went down to Parris Island, South Carolina for a Marine Corps boot camp. And what a shock that was from just being a casual high schooler to now I'm in one of the toughest boot camps that the branches have to offer. But really learned a lot about the ability to push past the comfort zone, discipline, teamwork, and then realizing that if you want something bad enough, nobody's going to take it away from you, and earned that title U.S. Marine. But then my first day reporting back after boot camp leave was September 11th, 2001. And so that took a whole new perspective. And I remember calling my dad and saying, "Dad, I'm going to be in the Marine Reserves for about 6 years. At some point, I am going to a war somewhere. Like this has changed a lot, all within a day." Fast forward 2003, not that they were related, but I know that's a separate conversation. But 2003, I got deployed for my first deployment, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and that was quite an experience. The hardest part was just being away from home for that long. And we worked so much and we're away from just the American way of life that sometimes we forgot what Friday felt like or Sunday felt like. We were just there. And anyway, got home from that, and then 2 years later had to go right back. Spring and summer of 2005, and that was a way more intense deployment on the western part of Iraq than the first deployment. And I actually was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder a year after getting home from that deployment. And it was one of those where I was diagnosed only because I was being treated, only because I was very irritable, negative, having flashbacks, nightmares, and they weren't going away. I thought they'd go away with time, but also I was growing apart from my mom and dad because they were the ones trying to tell me, like, something's not right.
Yeah.
We're losing you. But I fell back on, well, you don't know what I've been through. You can't relate to what I've seen. I'm fine. But when my dad finally told me, I'm not going to lose my family, I am losing you, it hit like, okay, maybe something's going on. And sure enough, went through neurolinguistic programming and remarkable treatment. But it helped me a lot, particularly to stop reliving this one close mortar fire incident that happened in Iraq in June of 2005. And it was a game changer. And then thus the relationship with my parents started to come back together. And then after getting out of the Marines, graduating college, they went into law enforcement for several years. But unfortunately, battled an addiction early on in my career. Never saw that coming, but it happened. And then 9 years into the career, battled a hard time with my marriage because I was essentially living the job, and my wife and I were growing apart. So those kind of things that had hit, but we can dive more into it. But that's kind of the broad view and about my experience with mental health and my experiences in the Marines and policing, to which, don't get me wrong, I would not take back for the world.
Wow. Well, we are grateful for your service and your time in the police force and in the Marines. I have to ask you, Scott, what were the key challenges you faced during your battles with PTSD and addiction, and what strategies did you employ to overcome them?
I already mentioned one. It was just the getting out of my own way, because I thought, well, if people can't relate, I'm fine. And that is actually a very damaging 3-word phrase. A lot of first responders in particular can say, I am fine, when in fact we're not doing fine. And so it was that, but also the actual physical ailments that were coming about, the lack of sleep, the distancing in relationships, like that's hard. And it's not just going to go away with time. Like, in order to get different results, we have to do different actions. And it took me a while to realize this. But then when it came to the addiction, after the post-traumatic stress disorder thing, and it came to the addiction, I was really bad about shaming myself. I would talk so badly about myself and not have any grace at all. And I would pray to God every night, like, please free me from this addiction. But at the same time, I'd turn around and be like, why is this happening to me? This shouldn't be happening to me. I'm such a bad person. Why am I doing this? And that was really hard. But then I must say, through these challenges and recognizing all this stuff, professional treatment really helped me every single time. So for those holding out, I'm an advocate for seeking professional care, and the right professional care.
Wow. I'm inquisitive as to what motivated you to transition from your career in law enforcement to becoming a speaker and fully focused author on mental health and resilience.
Yeah, well, in January of 2020, I was still working full-time in law enforcement. And I'd been on the job 13 years-ish at that point. And that's when I learned for the first time that more police officers were dying by suicide than getting killed in the line of duty. To which, I'm not trying to undermine getting killed in the line of duty. That is very tragic, but you think about it, like, police know when they're getting into the job, there's that risk of that happening. But why didn't I know, or why was I not told, and why was there not training on how we could keep ourselves alive? Because in 2019, over 200 police officers died by suicide, and that's just the ones that were reported. I think it was like 230 something. That's just the ones that were reported. And that did not sit well with me at all. And I thought, well, hang on, I've been through some mental health challenges. If I can just open up, because I felt alone during that time when I was battling those dark days. I felt alone. And I said, okay, there's got to be other people struggling. Clearly, the statistics show it. If I can just open up, but also do a heck of a lot of research on mental health, personal development, resilience, post-traumatic growth, all those kind of things, then let's start working towards solutions. And I'm doing my best to do that. And I travel the country now speaking to first responders, probation officers, corrections officers. I've spoken to a wide variety of people. But I come to them as a friend, like saying, look, I'm here as your friend because I care, even though we don't know each other personally. But I come bringing the tough conversations and saying quiet parts out loud, but also we got to hold each other accountable and push each other to rise and prevail, even through the hard times.
100% can agree with that. Can you discuss the importance of shifting from a victim mindset to a victor mindset, and how individuals can initiate this complete transformation?
It's one of those I do not believe anyone should look at as optional. First off, you got to understand what, like, the victim versus victor. I mean, we hear a lot about it now, particularly anybody who follows any kind of motivational content on social media. But I found that in law enforcement in particular, if we weren't careful, we settled for complaining, and we settled for hard times, and we settled for how we were physically, or if someone was unfortunately drinking to cope and they were in the bad habit of it, or maybe even worse, straight up addiction to it, just settling for it. Like, this is me. And what I went through with my addiction for a little bit, that victim mindset of why me, or shaming yourself. And that's not going to change anything. It could really set you up for things to get worse. Instead, the victor mindset realizes stuff's going to happen. Forget this fact of having an easy, comfortable life. Life hits everybody. Nobody's immune, but you can attach some meaning and purpose and you can actually build strength afterwards, that's what the victor does. So through relentless action, even if it's one small step a day, it's better than nothing. And that's what I teach to the first responders, just saying, look, you don't have to settle. We don't have to settle as a profession. And then I go into different solutions and stuff like that. But it all starts with mindset. It really does.
It really does. And I think that one of the things in my talks around the world, I always say, you can be a sufferer and a victim, but pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. It's a choice. And so you can choose to suffer, you can choose to be a victim, but if you do, that is all you will ever be. Even if you've suffered, even if you've been victimized, if you choose to stay in that space, you can't get out of it. And if you adopt that narrative as your own, that's all you'll ever be. Consequently, conversely, if you say, I'm the hero or the victor of my own story, then you become the champion in your journey, never to be a sufferer, never to be in victimhood again, which is really, I think, crucial to forward movement. I'd love to know from you, Scott, what practical steps can individuals take to build resilience and maintain well-being in high-stress environments like first responders of the military?
Yeah, from what I've learned, Kevin, it can really be simple yet profound things that do take some work, but they're not mentioned a lot. And one of those is sleep. I mean, sleep's a game changer. And unfortunately, there's a mentality, particularly in the first responder world, where it's nothing uncommon to hear, well, I'll just drink coffee by the pot rather than the cup, or, pound the monster drinks, the phrase, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm used to getting no sleep. We're all human. We can't outrun that. We need sleep. And so I dive into all kinds of techniques on how to optimize your sleep, to which, I mean, if I don't put these steps into place, I don't get good sleep. It's necessary. So it's like, I like to say, keep your room cool, which the sleep scientist Matt Walker on his TED Talk talked about how important it was to keep the room cool. I mean, I say stuff like don't eat before going to bed because you want your body to focus on rest and not digestion and rest. You want it to be solely focused on sleeping. And unfortunately, a lot of people think, well, alcohol helps me sleep better. No, it doesn't. It hinders our sleep and stuff like that. And the looks I get from some of the people in the crowd, like, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding? Are you really saying this stuff? Yeah, I am. But also, we have to watch what we eat. And I'm not here to promote any kind of extreme diet. I mean, I've heard from many different fitness influencers, like, pick something that you can manage, but overall, the healthier we eat, the better we feel, the better it's going to be on your mindset as well. But then also I go into, we got to keep acting fast, like take action each and every day. Do something that's challenging. That way you realize you don't have to listen to that innate negative voice that's in your head. You can dismiss it. And I've even heard you say this, Kevin, like just because you have a thought, even no matter how dark it may be, you do not have to listen to it. In fact, it doesn't have value. There's no value to it. It's just running through. You put value in those hopeful, ambitious, and self-worth and loving thoughts towards other people. That's what you do. Yeah. So I teach about how to help garden our brains, as Professor Marty Seligman talks about, through the power of, well, he uses that analogy, mental gardening. But I talk about how you can do that through either deep breathing or quick meditations, however long you want to do it. Very helpful.
I like our thoughts don't have to become our actions. They can simply be our thoughts. If they're dangerous to ourselves or others, they don't have to own, rule, or define what we do next.
Exactly.
Very important to look at it like that. How significant is community and peer support in the journey toward mental health recovery, and how can one cultivate such great support systems?
In Dr. Olivia Johnson's, she former police officer, former military, she founded the Blue Wall Institute, and it's very tragic, as in they studied autopsy reports of hundreds of current and former police officers, hundreds from just, I think it was 2017 to 2019. And it's so sad that it was that many. But they came up with the fatal 10. And the fatal 10 was contributing factors towards police officer suicide, to which when you read the full 10, these can transpire to other people as well. Law enforcement or not, we're all human. But the number one contributing factor was interpersonal relationships. So we as people need people. We can't do this alone. And we need the right people, bottom line. So it's very important to surround yourself with the right people. And if you're at a job where there's a lot of toxicity, negativity, yeah, you might not be able to control that environment. All the more reason outside of your career to find the right people, and particularly those at home. See, it's too easy to let the family be the punching bag, and I'm guilty of that. But we got to foster what's at home because, like I tell first responders, when you're not working in the career one day, the department, the station, it's not going to be there for you. The family will. Family at home will be. So foster those relationships. But I'm sure you've heard about this. What really resonated with me when it came to, wow, being around the right people and being around good people is absolutely essential for your health, was that study that Harvard did for over 85 years, following people, over 700 people. And the ones that lived the longest, they just said relationships was it for them, for their health. That's huge. You can't escape this. We need each other. So be there for each other and be the uplifting person and listen when someone's having a hard time.
Interpersonal connection is absolutely the key to survival. It's so important to know. And for all the people struggling with a lack of a social network or the lack of a support network, it's time to begin to build your own or become your own best advocate for change. I'd love to know from your perspective, Scott, what are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned from your experiences with adversity in particular, and how have they contributed to your personal growth?
That I and nobody can ever listen to that voice that craves easy comfort in life. Like, stuff will happen. Even if you're just doing the minimal things possible, like, life happens. And you should expect that, because it's going to happen. But at the same time, listen to the inner thoughts that are like, I must work out today, or I must reach out to somebody today. Like, do the things that are not innately easy. Do the things that are hard, and it will create lasting pleasure and good results throughout life. It really will. But that's what I've learned. Stuff will happen. Push yourself. You've got this. What I like to tell police officers is, a lot of times when people give advice to police officers, other first responders, but this can apply to anybody, when you're really discouraged in your career, is remember why you started. And this is particular for military and stuff like that, because it's like a calling, and it's remember the reasons why you started. Well, I like to tell people now, considering that suicide is such a high risk for many people, is remember your reasons for living and anchor them in, and never stray away from them. Remember your reasons for living, because those are powerful and worth it.
Incredible. Scott, what advice would you offer to someone currently struggling with mental health challenges, particularly those hesitant to seek help right now?
Understand that you have it within you to do the right thing, and if that is seeking professional assistance, there's no shame in that. There really isn't. I've heard the analogy, and I talk about the analogy of how we never, ever shame someone when they go to, say, lose weight, and they go to a gym and they sign up for a professional trainer. We're like, yeah, hey, good for you. We look forward to seeing the results. Good stuff. But yet someone goes to seek professional assistance, like, oh, well, what's wrong with that person? There is nothing wrong with that person. They are bothered by something, and they just need help. And it's a sign of pure strength to show up. And it goes in line with the victor mindset. So I like to put that perspective and just challenge people to go, because when you do your research and you find the right person, you'll be surprised at how they can help you. And even though you are the one that has to ultimately make the decision to change and do the things that require change, but when you do, there is victory you never thought possible on the other side of that pain. And I stand here as proof of that. I never thought I'd be on the Hinesights podcast and traveling the country, but yet here I am, all because of not willing to suffer for the pain. Instead, rise above through the work and necessary action, and fortunately having the right people in my life, to include my beautiful wife, to help me. So there's that. Take action.
There's that. Take action. Love that. Looking ahead, Scott, can you tell us what projects or goals you are most excited about in your mission to promote mental health awareness and resilience?
I love being around people. So I'm going to continue, and I'm already getting booked up for 2025, just speaking at as many conferences and agencies as possible. And I'll continue to be on YouTube and LinkedIn and stuff like that. But I really look forward to becoming more involved with people and standing in front of more and more audiences for as long as this, God willing, as this continues.
Wonderful. Scott, how do people reach you and book you and find you on socials?
Yeah, well, my website is thescottmedlin.com, and I have a YouTube channel, The 10 Code Mindset, if anyone's interested in police work or just whatever, want to follow me. And then my podcast is the 10 Code Mindset as well. Just keep it simple. Then, yeah, just the website, but the website has everything, thescottmedlin.com. And all my books are on Amazon. If you just look up my name, all the books will come up.
Friends, family, this has been yet again another episode of the Hinesights Podcast with an incredible guest, Scott Medlin. Scott, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and intelligence and hope with us here on the podcast. Friends, whatever you're doing, whatever you're going through, whatever things you're dealing with, be here tomorrow and every day after that. You are valued, you are loved, you are worthy, and you matter. And if nobody else says it today, we love you and we want you to stay. Take care, be well, and be here tomorrow.